Cheryl, you have had a unique path to becoming a president and CEO of one of the largest minority women-owned construction companies. What are some pivotal moments in your career that have gotten you to where you are?
I'm here today to say that when you feel, downtrodden, that, forces are coming against you, that's when you can shine the most and go to the next level. My family is 5 generations in this country. The first descendant of our family came here in 1790 as a slave. And he was taught the trade of making bricks. And his son was a master carpenter, Moses McKissack II. And Moses McKissack III and his brother Calvin were the first black licensed architects in the country. And so when you think about overcoming trials and tribulations, think about the Deep South in the 1790s. And so for my family to be able to overcome all the setbacks, hatred, bigotry, when I think about that with the trials that I have, I always feel that I can overcome. And so entering into engineering school at Howard University, there were only probably, well, thank God I had a twin sister. So we had each other. And being able to work through that process, and probably only 4 women in the entire engineering school, was the beginning of my education of what it was like to be a woman and black in America. And so with that kind of education, I was able to go out into the construction field. And I remember working at a very large construction company, and I won't say the name because they're national and they're strategic partners of mine that I work with all the time. I remember the guys saying to me, we'd go out for drinks, "You'll never make it here because you're not Irish."
Dr. Joan, science and technology are an emerging field for women. I mean, clearly it is a field that has historically been dominated by men. Interestingly, I never really thought about it, but you told me that women and minorities hold very few patents, which I never truly thought about. How did you get people to listen to your ideas? And, how do we get more women and people of color to apply for patents? And, why is that important?
Women don't take ownership of what they think about. They apply unique solutions every day, especially even with their children, right, that are brilliant, and yet they're just there in their own little world and not shared with the world. And I think as we do, conferences like this, where we can share our ideas and actually take ownership of it, it's really important. And that's not, it's historical for us. So if you think about women physicians, just in general, women have been high-ranking physicians in Russia way longer than they have here. And women had their own economy in Russia, and we didn't have it here. So women couldn't own things. So the first patent that was issued to a woman was probably 20 years after the first man patented something. And remember, patents are in our Constitution. There's a whole thing in the Constitution about ownership of ideas. And so that woman received a patent for a hat she designed using silk and straw, which is a unique combination. But she couldn't own it. I mean, her name was on it, but she couldn't own the business of it. Her husband had to own the business of it. And so historically, women in this country have not owned things. If you think about when women could get bank loans, women could get credit cards. Women couldn't have credit cards in my lifetime. That's incredible. And so, there was something called coverture, which is an old French word that talks about owning things. And so women in this country couldn't own things. And so I think we need to think about it in that way. And I testified in front of Congress in 2018 about the fact that women and individuals of color do not patent. And that we need that talent to put those things into place. And I think that we have to start thinking about ownership. I didn't think about it myself. It was my brother who instilled in me the fact that ownership of my ideas was really important for me.
So, Diane, You were a former bedside nurse, transformed or, decided to then be on a board and run a major hospital. At what point in your career did you say, I can do this, I need to do this, my voice needs to be heard?
It was only when I started my early career and being in college that I got a part-time job as a nursing assistant because I wanted to go shopping at the mall and I had no money. So I fell in love with my job, and that was the first pivotal moment that I started to say, I've got to answer for myself. I can't, I was doing it for the reverse. I was saying, I'm not going to do healthcare because that's what everybody expects me to do. I had to start listening to my heart. And I will tell you that through my entire career, to your point, it has been very transformational, but it has always been a little bit of an internal dialogue with myself is, am I feeling good about what am I doing? And does it, I will be, one thing I'm very candid, I was asking first, does it feel good to me? And then I said, and am I making a difference? And that has really been my course, is put yourself first and really pay attention to how your life is going. Is it the way you want? Because there isn't anyone else that's going to do it for you. It's no one else's job. I learned that very quickly. I'm one of 6 kids. It is my job to figure out my life. No one else is going to take that on for me. So I got real intentional and real purposeful.
I think you have to just let it happen and live with your passions. Sometimes we sublimate those things, right? And we can't do that. You have to go with your passions, continue doing it organically, and then it's almost like it just comes together. And you're like, wow, how did that happen? I always talk about I had 3 things that I love in my life from when I was a kid: medicine, children, and baseball, right? And they seem very disparate, but they kind of all come together now in my life, where I can sit on CC Sabathia's foundation board, or I can, it's amazing how it all kind of comes together. But you can't force it to come together, but you have to keep living your authentic self. When you live your authentic self, it somehow comes together.
Fear is, first of all, a natural feeling, but understand where it's coming from. Is it the unknown? Are you in danger? I mean, what is the fear? If it's just the unknown, or you're afraid of how you're going to be perceived, then I take that as a challenge. If I feel like it that day, I take that as a challenge. And, I focus on the word courage. Have the courage to overcome this thought, this fear, because you don't know what the other side is going to be like. And so fear is an opportunity to react differently and learn more about yourself. The right kind of fear. If you're in danger, run.